Do you ever watch a video and just wish you had never seen it, but it's really hard to look away? Well, that's the kind we're going to look at today. And when I saw this video, first of all, I was like, man, I really wish I hadn't. But when I started going through the comments, it was clear that, first of all, the internet acts like a barrier and people think they can say anything they want, and that's totally fine. But also, I saw where some people were saying that, this changed my mind on gun control, or, America needs to fix their gun laws. I find it interesting that people came to that conclusion without even knowing the backstory. Surely you guys have seen stories on Facebook or Instagram, and, they make you click on it, of course. It's all about clicks, and I understand the game. I've been in it a long time too. Some people just read a headline because they don't want to click it, so they don't really get the context. This video is one of those. If you don't get the context, you may look at this as strictly an American gun problem when it is clearly not. The officer we're going to talk about, this is with the utmost respect to him and his family. So I'm going to be showing parts of the video here. The other part I am not going to show. I just want to go ahead and make that clear. But I want to get your opinion on this. When you see this video, and I'm going to provide all the details so you know exactly what's going on, does your mind get changed before you know the context compared to after I tell you and fill you in on the context? Love to hear your thoughts down below. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Now, this actually happened back in 2021. Officer Darian Jarrett actually ended up pulling over a Silverado, and unbeknownst to him, the feds were actually watching him. The problem is, the feds knew who Darian was about to pull over. This happened off of Interstate 10 in near Deming, New Mexico, and here's how it played out.
Cueva? Omar Cueva? Yes, sir. Mr. Cueva. While she's sending the pic, let's go so that I can run my checks on you. Yeah, so I can run my checks and I can talk to you a little bit while running my checks, and then you'll show me the picture right away because I got paperwork I gotta do, you know? Hey, real quick. You have a firearm on you? Yeah. No, I see that. Please, do me a favor. You mind if I take it off you for my safety? Alright, hold on. Alright, let's go to my vehicle, okay? Come on.
So what you don't see is this absolute POS walk right up to Darian and pull the trigger multiple times. It's absolutely heartbreaking to watch this. Now, later on in the video, there's like a 40-mile chase ensues, by the way, and he has multiple shootouts with the cops. The cop that finally ended up taking this guy out got shot himself, but fortunately ended up, ending this threat. Now, here's the crazy part about this. The feds were watching this go down. As a matter of fact, it almost seems like they were too scared or they didn't want to ruin their investigation to actually pull him over themselves, so they let Officer Jarrett do that for them. He had been on the service, for 5.5 years up to this point. Now you may be thinking, well, hopefully they provided backup. No, they were watching a couple hundred yards away, I believe. They were watching all of this go down. They didn't instantly intervene either. And they knew who this guy was. They had been following him, some reports say weeks, some say months. Either way, they knew who he was. They had been following him. They were basically trying to find out if he had some kind of cartel connection because they're pretty sure that he was. By the way, he had been arrested in California multiple times. Weapons charges and trafficking, and the list just goes on. When I talk about people being reformed that go through the system, I am not talking about people like this. Like, they knew who he was. And let's just be honest. When I talk about reform of people that go through the system, they pay for the crime with their time and all that, there's just some people that can't be reformed. There's some people that just don't want to be reformed. This was a great comment on a video I recently made over on Headshot Nation, where they were talking about this. One of my viewers was talking about this exact thing. Like, some people just don't want to be helped. And that's absolutely the truth. Now, I think we could probably have a better process to get people help, before it gets to situations like this. But again, there's just some people that don't want to be helped, and this was one of those guys. He should have never never been out on the streets, especially with the kind of rap sheet that he had. And yet, even in California, even with weapons charges, let off the hook. I mean, he had an arrest record going all the way back to 94. Now, I can't definitively say that weak criminal policies played a part of this out in California. It wouldn't surprise me. I can't definitively say that, but I do know that he got out of federal prison in 2019, and this incident happened in January 2021. Now, do we hold all criminals to that same standard, right? If they pay for their crimes, they've done the time, right? And we trust them to go back out into society. I say we do not do that, especially dependent upon the crimes that were committed, right? I think everybody's situation is different. We shouldn't hold people that, have actually paid that time, right? They've paid their dues back and hold everybody to the same standard where they don't get their rights back. I don't believe that. This guy, though, clearly was just going to be a bad actor all the way to the end. And the fact that HSI was watching him, Homeland Security was watching him, they knew. They could have had this guy off the streets again before Officer Jarrett and him ever had this interaction. That's the thing. He is a criminal. This guy is a career criminal going all the way back to 94, and I solely blame HSI here because not only did they not back him up, they also didn't give him the information about who he was actually pulling over. Some people will say, oh, well, maybe it would have made him nervous if he knew who he was pulling over. I say, absolutely not. He would actually maybe already had his gun drawn just in case, right? You know you're pulling over somebody that's been in and out of the system, just got out of federal prison, and it would have been nice to know, hey, we're actually tracking this guy, right? We're going to come along with you, or we're going to provide backup. We're going to be right there with you just in case this goes sideways. And at the very sight of a gun, knowing who you're dealing with, this would have been beneficial information. They just simply did not do it. And guess what? They can't be prosecuted either. Now, the state ended up having to pay like $540,000 after lawyer fees. The family got $340,000, which I hope it serves them well. I really do. But that is not even a fraction of what this family should have got. And the federal government, we've seen the effects of the government blowing money, but hooking up a family of somebody that should have never been in that situation in the first place, absolutely terrible. Now here's where it involves gun owners as well. Because of course New Mexico in March of 2021 pushes for universal background checks. How could a universal background check fix this? It couldn't. First of all, it's none of their business who has what guns, right? You don't want them knowing every gun you have, and neither do I. The other part of this is, do you really think that this guy would have not got his hands on a weapon just because you passed another law? He's used to breaking the law. He could care less about another one that you pass. Now they've introduced assault weapons ban. I pose the same question. How could this stop this guy from buying any type of weapon? What they're referring to is the AR style rifle. Now that happened, I think a couple years later in New Mexico, it was shot down, but they say, oh, well, people shouldn't have ARs. But I say, how many times does the federal government need to use known criminals and put Americans at risk in the process? Because they're quick to raise you if they think you have some kind of full autos or unregistered guns in some states. Of course, they're going to come after you. They may even burn your house down. They may take your life and the life of your dog. And guess what? It's just an unfortunate situation to them. See, there's no responsibility when they do this stuff at the border, right, that they've done by selling illegal guns to cartel members, known people that are tied in, like the ATF did many years ago, to try to catch bigger and badder actors. They would rather have these people amongst us knowingly, and unfortunately this ended up costing this officer his life, which is just super tragic. Now the other part of this too is disarming citizens, right? Most law-abiding gun owners are not going to like this, right? I don't want to be disarmed when I'm around a cop. I know a lot of y'all don't either. I don't even want the officer to know I have a gun. And fortunately, South Carolina is one of those states now where we don't have to inform cops. They just don't, they simply don't need to know that, right? Now, that's different than knowing the profile of somebody that's on the radar already, okay? So I draw a distinction there. Regular, everyday citizens. This isn't something that we would really like if you're ever in this situation. Just know that typically the courts are going to side with them. This goes all the way back to Pennsylvania versus Mims in 1977. If a cop asks you for your firearm, typically that's going to be allowed because they can always say officer safety. And while I don't think there's any specific law in the books that says you have to, there's going to be, it could raise tensions, I guess is what I'm getting at. For the cop to ask you, especially if you're not doing anything suspicious, right? You got pulled over for speeding. He sees a gun in your car. It's going to raise his suspicions, of course, which is fine. He doesn't know who you are, and vice versa. And so if he knows, hey, I have a gun, I'm going to keep an eye on him. I don't need to take your gun as long as you don't reach for anything. You know, we're good to go. While there's no federal law saying you have to, on a state level, again, they can almost always do this if asked. Most gun owners are not going to like this, but you need to choose when and where you want to fight those battles. Typically on the side of the road is not the place to do that because, again, we follow the law more than anybody in this country. This is clearly not a gun issue. This is an issue, first of all, with the federal government. The fact that they can't be held responsible costing this officer his life, which I 100% blame them. And then not in this situation, because this officer, whatever he thought, he saw this AR, he said, hey, can I take it for my safety? He had an inclination that something wasn't right here, and unfortunately, he was right. I really wish kind of in this situation that he had his gun drawn, you know? I mean, hindsight, of course, is 2020. He saw something he didn't like, and for whatever reason, he let him get out with the gun in his hand, didn't ask for him to, you know, kind of hand it over or anything like that. It's just, it's one of those situations, I think maybe he was trying to ease tensions there. Maybe he saw tensions rising and, or maybe he just heard the guy. He said, sure, not realizing that he was going to point it on him. Right, so I guess the point is, man, they have a tough job, and while I do not agree with everything they do, I still recognize that, you know what, there are way more good police officers. There's way more of them out there that respect the Constitution and respect your rights than those that don't. And Officer Jared should have never been in that situation in the first place. I support good police officers. We absolutely need them. They have a tough job. Their backs are against the wall every single day. But in the same video, you see how bad federal officers, and we see this time and time again on a federal level, they do not respect rights. There you go. There's my opinion. Let me know what you think down below. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. See you in the next one. And as always, hold them down.